Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. Today I am joined as always by Paul Nealon and the return, Steve Byrne.
Every time I'm here, you say it's return.
I know, you keep leaving us. But today we're going to be discussing this week in Irish football. So we're going to start with some Premier League news. There was big rumours over the last couple of days that Everton had tabled a £13 million bid for Bristol City's captain and player of the year, Jason Knight. Paul, big news for yourself, your favourite club. Big news.
Yeah, I think as well, like, it's weird that Jason Knight doesn't really get a lot of credit from Irish fans. Like, obviously, remember we did the hot takes, people saying he shouldn't be anywhere near the starting 11. I don't think you can be a captain of a club like Bristol City and play every minute of games, without being a good player. Obviously, he's durable, but I don't think we've probably seen the best of him for Ireland. We've seen how good he's been for Bristol. He adds goals, energy. He has a lot of features that I think would make him a good Premier League player if it is to be the case that he will sign. But it looks as though Everton have looked at him a few times and they feel like he's the right fit and age for them to sign. But like what he brings is the dynamism as a midfielder. He's energetic. He gets around all over the pitch. He loves a goal. But what I like mostly about him, and I said it before, is that he has that snidiness about him. Where like he's a master of the dark arts that I found watching him, and every manager that's ever had him has always really loved him as a player. Wayne Rooney, Frank Lampard, Stephen Kenny, they've all really loved him. And I look at his Ireland career and I can't recall too many games where he's had a really bad game. I always thought he's been always kind of involved, but I do think it's hard to stand out in this Irish team anyway. But I do think David Moyes could really make him a proper Premier League player and a midfielder. And I think that if he was to come, I think we'd see Jason Knight go up in levels. And I think it'd be great to have another Irish player playing in the Premier League. And, if we're going to go off last season's evidence under David Moyes, that Everton would be a decent enough side next season, kind of hoping to push towards the top half of the Premier League. So I think having him and Jake and Sheamus there could be really big. And it'll obviously help them to sell. What do you think about it, Steve?
I mean, he's versatile as well, Jason Knight. So, but look,
David Moyes loves that.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about this in the transfer specials on the Irish Abroad, and I kind of felt the same way. But if there's one manager that I'd love to see an Irish player play under, it's David Moyes, because he's a developmental coach. He's going to develop a player and make them better in different areas. And yeah, I mean, not much to add, but I love the move personally. I know he was linked with Palace, wasn't it, as well? I think he was linked with Palace, but
I think that was Finn Azaz.
Might have been Finn, but yeah, no, I do like the Everton move. What about yourself, Tom?
Yeah, no, I like it. I think he fits that kind of hard work and kind of ethos that David Moyes likes to implement in his team, and I think he would fit in well. He'd fit in nicely in that midfield, as you say, in a number of roles that he can play. And I think Everton probably will have more ambition this year. The last couple of years, yourself, it's been all about survival. Maybe this year it's about kind of kicking on, maybe progressing into the top half of the table where Everton kind of used to be back when David Moyes was there originally. And I think Jason Knight, it's kind of, after the season he had last year, Players Player of the Year, the Fans Player of the Year as well for Bristol City, in a team that made the playoffs, obviously got hammered in the playoffs, but nonetheless a team who wasn't expected to make it that far. He was a huge part in that. He was so important to them all throughout the season. And so what you're getting in as a player, you're also getting a leader in that team, and I think especially for a club like Everton, like, you can't have enough of them. And that kind of brings me on nicely to Everton's number one leader. That's Sheamus Coleman, who signed a new 1-year contract for the Toffees, keeping him there until the summer of 2026. He's obviously 36 years old now, but great to see him get the chance to take Everton into their new stadium.
Yeah, I've spoken a lot about Sheamus and this, so I'm going to bring this one back to you and see what you think of it kind of from the outside looking in terms of obviously what Sheamus brings to Ireland and what Sheamus brings to Everton. So, Steve,
go ahead.
I mean, I'm happy he's sticking around. I think it would have been a shame to see him go out on the season just had, riddled with injuries. And I do, look, this might be a hot take. I do think Everton are a dark horse for competing for that, like, 7th, maybe 7th, 8th position, especially with bringing these players in like Jason Knight. Fits that system perfect. So players like that coming in, the Irish connection that Sheamus Coleman has in there, he's a legend of the club. He's a legend of Irish football. So I'm delighted to see him stick around, and please God he can stay fit for a year, play football, and maybe be a part of a historic season for Everton, get that Conference League European football.
And on that, obviously, as well, it's the World Cup year. Hamer's obviously came out and said how important he is to the national team as well as he is for Everton. I mean, he's more than a player. I mean, what David Moyes said about him, you know, how much he's kind of added to the surroundings while Everton have been so poor in that time. Like, you need someone there to keep the standards. Obviously, Everton have a lot of players going out the door this summer, and they're bringing in a lot of new players who don't understand the values and how big a club Everton actually are overall. I know the last couple of seasons they haven't been a good team, but Everton is a massive club, and I think sometimes you need someone there to kind of instill the values of the club. I think he's done it great with Jake, so I think he could do it with Jason. And I do think what Steve's saying there is a realistic target that Everton would probably be, you know, trying to aim in that 7th or 8th position. I don't think it's unheard of to do that. And look, the transfer window's still open. Still have to add a lot of players, and it might take them time to gel. But I think with David Moyes there, it's and Sheamus, I mean, I think it's a great mix. What do you think of it?
Yeah, and you know, we've talked about in the past, it probably would more so be in that kind of behind the scenes role. Sheamus Coleman, that's probably where he's more more valuable.
He is looking to try and avoid injury and play a bit more this year. He did say that as well, which I think I would like to see him from an Irish point of view as well. Obviously play, maybe if he's not playing for Everton, but he can come in and help out within the Irish camp, but he'll still look after himself. We all know that that's one thing that he does do. If he can look after himself and come into the camp, then, you know, you wouldn't say no to him coming in, would you?
No, of course not.
If he's fit, like,
because he just has that experience and the know-how to kind of get by, even if his legs, he might have lost a yard of pace over the years, especially through injury. Like, he's had brutal luck with injuries over the last probably decade, really. But it is great to see him come back, and I'm sure from an Everton point of view, you're glad to have him back, because with this kind of new phase of Everton, like you're talking about, kind of, you know, progressing out of this survival mode that you've been in for quite a while now,
3 seasons,
into hopefully kicking on. He'd be vital, and kind of, because he's one of the probably the only player really left from the time that they can remember, you know, qualifying for the Champions League. They can remember the kind of good days from Martinez and Moyes. So I'd say invaluable experience to have in that dressing room.
And the Euros with Ireland.
Absolutely, for Ireland as well. So taking us on to the League of Ireland, there's been a couple of big moves, a couple of big rumours, but today, signing was confirmed for Bohemians. They have a new striker, Douglas James Taylor, signing permanently with Bows. Obviously spent the last 2 seasons with Drogheda on loan from Walsall. It was huge for Drogheda last year, of course, in helping them survive in the Premier Division, and then helping them win the FAI Cup. Had a little bit of struggle with injuries at the start of this season, and maybe the shine was taken off him a little bit by how good Warren Davis has been this year, but a much needed striker for Bows. Big interest from Derry and Drogheda as well. Steve, your thoughts on this move?
I like it for Bows. From what I've seen, I think he fits the style of play. I've watched him a couple times this season, and I think he has great link-up play. I don't think he's like an out-and-out like mad goal scorer that will score loads of goals, but I do think he's a good footballer, if that makes sense. But look, you're the Bows man, and I know you were saying that you would like to bring in a number 9 this window. Is this type of player that you would have been happy with? Like, yeah,
definitely. I mean, a lot of Bows fans were hoping for Georgie Kelly just because of the the history that we have with him.
You were as well.
Yeah, I absolutely was. I'd love Georgie Kelly back. Looks like he might be potentially going to Derry now. Not sure on that one
yet.
He played
for them before.
Potentially, maybe.
He did, yeah,
UCD Dundalk, Pats, Bows.
Oh, so he didn't play for Derry, I'm wrong.
He was always linked with them throughout the years, especially when Derry's new owners came in with the big money. But anyway, back to Douglas James Taylor. Yeah, much needed striker, because over the last couple of months, obviously the Moose came in, hasn't worked out. He's been hampered with injuries. Wouldn't really be surprised if he goes now. Collie Whelan started on fire, has kind of tailed off a little bit. He's struggled to kind of find form really for Bows. And so James Clark has kind of come in and filled in that striker role and done a brilliant job. Out position, it kind of takes you back to the 2 years ago when him and Johnny Afolabi kind of struck that great partnership together up front. So great to see him back, although unfortunately it looks like Grimsby Town are going to sign him. Nothing confirmed on that one yet, but that's the big rumour, is that he's gone to Grimsby, which is unfortunate, but we'll come back to that, back to this Douglas James Taylor, a bit of a mouthful move for Bows. I like it because it takes us back to kind of a player who knows that position, who knows how to score goals. Like you said, he mightn't be the most natural goal scorer. He mightn't score you like 25 goals a season, but he scores goals when he's meant to. I know in that cup run, you know, you might say against lesser opposition, but I think Bows kind of need that sort of flat track bully. The likes of kind of Lukaku back in his Everton days when he used to just score bags of goals against the smaller clubs. You need that as well, because you see Bows, we show up in the big games and maybe let down in games that we're meant to win against Sligo at home, which we'll come on to as well. But I really do like this move. Paul, what do you think?
I think you can look at it two ways. I mean, if he's playing for a team in Drogheda who largely defend with 10 men behind the ball, it's going to be a hard ask to play as a striker for that. I mean, I know that from watching Everton. I'm watching Dominic Calvert-Lewin every week, and he had to do similar, and he's a similar frame to him. But I think if you put him in that Bows side, he's going to get chances. If you only have to look at, you know, how Bows played against Rovers last week. If he's in those positions, he'll score goals. So I think it's all about the service you give him. I think he'll score goals. I think he'll be a good fit. And I think it's a shame, really, isn't it, for the league? You talk about stories that you kind of want to hear, but the Moose could have been a story, but that seemed to fall flat on its face, and it doesn't look like it's growing any legs anytime soon. He obviously got that goal earlier in the season. Everyone thought he was going to kick on from there, and obviously it hasn't. It's kind of just flopped in that sense. It's like not him as a player, but just the kind of transfer itself. It was a bit of a flop in the end, isn't it? And especially if he leaves, it won't really look great, but like at least you can say you tried. As far as Douglas James Taylor goes, I think he's a really good player, and I think at Bows, I mean, you spoke about Georgie Kelly there. I mean, he only really had one season at Bows. Obviously, he's the European, but he's still kind of seen as like a hero there. If you can go there and score goals, he can make himself a hero at the club. So I think he should be looking at it like that. And I think Bows are an attractive club now to players that maybe other clubs can't hold on to. Because don't forget, like Drogheda has been doing well up the top end of the season. Obviously, they're going through a bit of a hard time with the European stuff and that, and now they're losing a couple of their better players. So I suppose my thoughts a little bit are for Drogheda losing them, you know, and they're potentially losing Warren Davis as well at some point.
Kind of a similar story every year around this time of the season for Drogheda, unfortunately. But you touched on the Moose there. It's kind of one of them where if we didn't do it, fans would be giving out that we kind of coughed up that opportunity, and if you did do it, you're kind of hammered for bringing in this big name. So I think it was
double-edged sword.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
It was one of them. I think we had to do it. It hasn't worked out. We move on. And Steve, I know you want to touch on this. I mentioned James Clark and his move that looks to be happening to Grimsby Town. He's obviously going to join Darragh Burns, who moved there last season. They finished 9th in League 2 last season. I think James Taylor, 24 years old, really talented footballer. Likewise with Darragh Burns, should be playing at a higher level than this.
You mean James Clark?
James Clark, sorry, yeah.
I completely agree with you. I mean, there's obviously some like financial reason that these players are moving to clubs like that.
Like I don't know what Grimsby Town's financial situation is, but I would imagine Bows would be able to compete with them.
You know what I mean? And I mean, if Grimsby Town somehow pay more than Bows, it can't be by much, man. Yeah. Like, I don't get it. But look, it is a rumour at the moment. And I mean, as a Bows fan, I'm pretty sure you'd hope he's going to stick around. He scored a couple of big goal for us recently. Especially that Sligo game. That was a huge goal for us. Yeah, I don't know. I just, them moves baffle my mind, man.
Yeah. I hate seeing players go to like League 2 over just, you know, staying in the League of Ireland, maybe playing another year and then getting scouted by a club that's maybe bigger. But
exactly, back yourself, like, you know.
Yeah, but like, look, it depends on what they're getting offered. We don't know what they're getting offered, do you know what I mean? But I do know the clubs in England can really stifle Irish players, and that's why I'm sure Rovers were offering Darragh Burns a lot of money, and Grimsby were able to pip that. So it's just annoying because obviously the system here doesn't really suit unless, like, and Shamrock Rovers, don't forget, we're in Europe as well. But it's mad that a player would choose a club that are in Europe to a League 2 side, which won't get anywhere near Europe.
And they're not even competing for league titles in League 2.
Yeah, it's like James Clark, if he has a good season with Bows, they're in Europe next year, you know. But it's like a year away, so I'm going to get it as well.
Yeah, and just before we move off Bows, did you see the Oasis kit today?
Yeah. I'm not. I don't like the logo on the jersey. I just think it looks in the way.
Is that the Bows logo or the Oasis logo?
No, the Oasis one. I just think it looks. The kit itself would look better. I think with a different logo. It's because I don't know. I just don't like the logo itself.
Stay out.
Is it because like the black border around the back of it?
Something,
Yeah.
just, I think if they actually removed and see the way the Fontaines one there beside you, if it was just Oasis like that in white, I think it actually would have looked better. But I just think the big black border, I know that is their logo, but I just think it's a bit of an ugly logo. But I think overall, I mean, other than that, it does look nice.
Steve, you like a review out of 10? What are you giving this jersey?
I do like the colour. I'd give it a 7.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what's bringing it down? The border.
Do you know what?
But I mean, it is the Oasis logo.
Yeah, so you can't change it.
It's one of them. It's a cup jersey. And like I said about this kit before in the season, when we're getting hammered at the start of the year, you don't feel good wearing this on the pitch. But if we're playing well, it all of a sudden starts to grow.
This is where it all goes wrong.
The blue Raz jersey here. But yeah, moving on anyway to...
What are your thoughts on it?
Oh, I like it because I love Oasis and I love Bows. So it's two of my favourite things coming together.
So, and what are the details behind it for anyone who doesn't know? Like, there's charities.
Yeah. So I'm not actually 100% sure what the details are on the charities, but I know 50% of the proceeds are going towards charity. And obviously Bows will get criticised about off the field stuff, but this is going to be a huge money maker, I'd imagine, for the club.
Yeah.
And that's probably the main reason.
And for charity.
There's the details for your son.
So here's the details here. All profits from the shirt will be split between Bohemian FC and 2 charities. 50% of the profits from the shirt will be used by Bohemians to support fan-owned football in Dublin. The other 50% will be split 25-25 between Music Generation Ireland to allow disadvantaged kids across Ireland to access music. The other 25% to Irish Community Care in Manchester.
Fair play.
You know what? Bump it up. 8 out of 10 for that.
8 out of 10 for that.
There we go.
No, you
Fair
just
play.
knock it off for the Bows quest you could have done, but anyway.
Well, all right. Moving swiftly on from our Jersey Fan TV, but another big loss.
Speaking of.
Another big loss to the league, unfortunately, is the league's top scorer this year so far, Moses Dyer,
Yeah.
who was moved to Cambodian side. Let me get this right.
You don't have to get it right.
Cambodian side, non-paying Crown FC.
They're non-paying.
Yeah, non-paying. But they are paying him 100k a year.
Yes, oh, brilliant, mate.
Apparently 100k, $100,000 a year
After tax.
after tax, which is a phenomenal amount of money, to be fair, for a player coming from the League of Ireland. Also, obviously on the football side, that apparently wants to be closer to home, so he can maybe put himself in the window for New Zealand's World Cup squad. Obviously flying in the year this year for the League of Ireland and Galway, 10 goals I believe so far. Been a huge part of their whatever success they've had this season. A big loss for the tribesmen, Steve.
Big loss. Yeah, I think this is a huge loss for Galway. It's not a huge loss for me for the league because he hasn't been here that long, but for them specifically, I mean, Galway fans must be absolutely fuming that he's gone. But I mean, you hear the numbers there. If he's getting paid $100,000 a year, he was never gonna decline it.
That's one you can understand versus
exactly
James Clark to Grimsby.
And then if you put in the whole New Zealand thing
and lifestyle,
it starts making sense then, you know. But when I first seen the link, I was laughing. I was like, what? I was like, there's no way you're going over there and getting good money. Turns out he is. So I can't say anything bad. I mean, yeah, terrible for Galway though. Yeah. But I know they're linked with Pat Houben, trying to bring him. I know he's a Galway man. So I think that would be a good one because he doesn't seem to be very favoured at Derry at the moment. I know he had injuries, Pat Houben, but I think that would be a good replacement.
And they're looking for a striker, clearly.
What do you think?
Yeah, obviously a huge loss. Galway haven't kind of maintained the form that they started the season with, obviously, but a player like him was really kind of tipping them along, you know, picking them up important points at times when they didn't even deserve them. I remember watching them earlier in the season when he first caught my attention at Balls. When he scored that obviously great goal in the second half, big volley from the far corner of the box over James Talbot. Yeah, brilliant, superb goal, one of the goals of the season so far, and really unfortunate for Galway because it's very hard to replace a top scorer in the league.
Of course.
Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, it's tough, but the league can't compete with these figures. You just can't. And then you throw into it like, okay, he's going to get paid well. He has a chance to try, get in and play for his country and play at a tournament or something like that. Then you take into account the lifestyle. Like, the lifestyle is way better than living in Ireland where it pisses rain most of the time. And I just think that it's just it's a no-brainer for him to go there.
You can't argue it, like.
Yeah, It literally, like I was literally struggling there to get words out of my mouth to kind of go to even give an argument against. Like, he seemed like a good character.
Yeah.
In and around the league, like we've had interactions with him and stuff like that. He seems like a good character. And look, I wish him well. I don't have any begrudgery towards him. Maybe Galway fans do. I don't, but I understand both sides of the coin, and the man's got to live. So why not get paid a handsome, a king's ransom, and
live in the sun,
and play football, do the same job and get paid whatever X times more.
in an easier league.
It's weird these New Zealand strikers that come to the League of Ireland and perform unbelievably. Thinking back to Max Mata up in Sligo. But moving on to another striker for Sligo who has been phenomenal this season as well, Owen Elding. Scored an absolute cracker again against Bows in Dalymount there last Friday. He was in the news this week because apparently he's trying to switch his eligibility to Ireland. He's obviously declared for England right now, I believe. John Russell said it's going to be basically a formality, but apparently the details are a bit more complicated than that. Steve, from what you've seen of him, how talented is he? How far can he go? He's switching allegiances to Ireland. Will he need to use those allegiances down the line? What do you think?
That excites me.
20 years old, I believe.
20, yeah, 19 or 20. He's very young, anyways. But yeah, Sligo have a real talent on their hand here. And I know I said to you about the goal against Bows, and it wasn't because it was Bows. I did think the keeper should have at least dived.
I hate when you don't dive.
I know, but when you watch it again, it was in top corner. I mean, what a hit! I think he's second top goal scorer of the league. I think he has 6 or 7 goals. Like, some going. I mean, he's having a great season. But if
for a really struggling Sligo, like
exactly, he's shining in a team that are really struggling, 9th in the league for a reason, you know. But he's a shining light down there. And if they didn't have him, they could be in Cork spot. You know,
Paul.
I kind of just agree with everything Steve said there. I don't mean to give you a short answer, but I can't really go in. Like, I'd like to talk about him more when he is declared and it's fully done, because I don't really like to talk about too many players that, you know, they use Ireland sort of thing. So when he is more eligible, I'd be more kind of inclined to talk a bit more about him. That's just me.
Moving on to a team who are in much better form at the moment. Derry have been red hot recently. They've won their last 3 games. They've moved into second place, joint on points with Bows, but ahead on goal difference. Still have 2 games in hand on league leaders Rovers. But Derry have been brilliant this year, and they're obviously linked with a couple of different strikers as well, maybe to try and kick on.
I think brilliant might be a stretch now. They've been good in the last few weeks. I don't think they've been brilliant. Just myself. But if they add some good players now, you know, if they sell Hooban, I wonder, can they spend money then and maybe bring in a younger, you know, sort of striker that they'll use a bit more than him? Because I think he's still one of the best strikers in the league, but for some reason can't get a game in there. So I think if they can get someone in there and add a couple of players, because they've obviously got some good defenders, they've got a good goalkeeper, so they're trying to build on that. But I think they need to get some more players in and can't just be so reliant on Mickey Duffy to win them games so often. As brilliant as he is, he can't win every game himself. So I think other players need to step up, as you say. Maybe in recent weeks they have, but Derry have been an early man team for a long time now. They need to change that mindset.
Yeah, and Steve, you watched Derry down in Richmond a couple of weeks ago. Was it last week?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Too much. What do you think?
Well, look, I think Derry are underrated, overrated. I do. If they win their 2 games in hand, I think they're 5 off top spot.
They're 11 points behind right now. So
yeah.
Do the math
and
on that.
2 games in hand, yeah. 5, I think. I'm only messing. But yeah, so to what Paul said, I do think they need to get a striker in the market. I know they activated the release clause for Moses Dyer. He's gone. They tried to get Douglas James Taylor. He's gone. So they do need a striker, because eventually they are going to need that number 9 that grabs them goals in them really tight games.
They do have money, so
they do have money, exactly. And I mean, I think they've signed a couple of players already in the last couple of days. So
in a midfielder, I think, didn't the Scottish guy?
Yeah. They're in the market and they're adding. And I know you said about they're an early team, but maybe Tiernan Lynch is gonna change that mindset. Maybe he has been, you know.
Yeah, hopefully for them. But that's what I'm saying. I just think like saying that they've been brilliant. They're still how many points off?
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
So if they should be neck and neck then. That's just my opinion on it. I think he's done a good job. Obviously, it hasn't been an easy job to come into and kind of bring in your own players. But I did see on another podcast, I saw some of their fans talking about like The manager kind of had to come in and buy players real quick. Or maybe he didn't get a chance to have a look at. And now he has the chance to maybe bring in players that he might have wanted or whatever. And don't forget, they don't have Europe, so they could have a little bit of an advantage there to the other sides, maybe Shells and Pats. Not so, I still don't see anyone catching Rovers, if I'm being honest, but I think that they're probably going to be the most likely if they can add well. But Rose have just signed Douglas James Taylor. He could be the difference in games as well. So.
Yeah, and sorry, Tom, before you get into that, and at the Pats game as well, Diallo returned the central midfielder. He's huge for Derry. He had a very good game in Richmond, so that's actually a big one for Derry as well. Well, that will kind of feel like a new sign this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with Paul. I do think they are a little bit reliant on Michael Duffy, which you're bound to be, how good of a player he is. But if they could go out and add a Georgie Kelly to that team, they really could kick on. And I do agree. I don't think anybody's really catching Rovers at this stage. They've just kind of built up that much of a gap, and I feel like it would need to be like kind of a crazy fall off from Rovers to have anybody really, whether it is Bows or Derry, catch them at this rate. But I think Derry would be happy enough with Europe the way this season started. So I think they would be happy with that, and then to try and kick on next season. But
and maybe
Paul,
win the cup.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be huge for them. But Paul, St. Pat's, their fortunes haven't been as good. They've been in a little bit of free fall at the moment. They are winless in their last 5 games. Obviously drew away in Cork on Friday. Prior to that, they'd lost their last 3 fixtures to Derry, Galway and Shells. Not been a good time in Richmond Park right now.
No, they just look so totally devoid of any confidence whatsoever. It's a shadow of the team that we would have saw this time last year really kick on. And you wonder what would it take to get them to get their momentum back up and running. I mean, if they win a game and then lose the game straight away, I mean, all the belief seems to have gone. I think Kenny could be on borrowed time at this stage, and it's weird saying that because I thought he was going to win them the league this year. But that's why I think he could be on borrowed time, because I wouldn't say they're not playing for them, but they just don't look like they're playing at all. They've got good players in that squad, and I think maybe it's gone too far. And the players want to hear a new voice. I don't know, but from the outside looking in, and I've watched them recently as well. They just don't look like a great team, and they should be, because they've got a great squad.
Steve, manager like that, Stephen Kenny, legend in the League of Ireland, so much experience in winning titles.
Yeah, go
Sorry,
on.
that put me off. So much experience in winning titles. Has he kind of lost them now? What do you think?
Right, so I'll be honest, okay, so when I'm not working in Tallaght Stadium, I'm at Richmond, so I'm there a lot. And from pitch side, watching the games, Pats play well. They pass the ball well, they play well. Simon Power on the left, exciting player. Mason Mealy up top, exciting player. It's just like lack of confidence. Like defensively, they just have like lapses of concentration and just concede these silly goals. But
and the keeper.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And then attacking wise, they like the midfield, like Brandon Kavanagh played there against Derry. He looked fantastic. They connect so well, but then when it gets to the final third, they just can't put the ball in the back of the net.
And the highest scoring team last season, compare that to this
exactly.
season.
So I don't even think they're playing that bad. But I mean, if I had to put my finger on it, I don't think that the players believe in Stephen Kenny's philosophy anymore. That's how I feel. I feel like he's found out with a couple of players just from being at the stadium and seeing a couple of big names dropped. And he takes off a couple of big names early on in games as well. Like he took off Jake Moraine before the hour mark a couple of times. And I seen Jake down at the bench. He was kind of, a bit upset with that. So I've seen some players upset with him. And I have a weird feeling that the players kind of don't believe in him anymore, which is crazy to say. I could be completely wrong. I'm not a Pats fan.
Paul, tell me if this is too harsh, but is it reminiscent of Stephen Kenny's time at Ireland, where they might be nice on the eye, they pass the ball well, but maybe a bit easy to play against?
It's difficult because if you look at it, right, like Stephen Kenny can't attain for a goalkeeper making a mistake or a defense. So in some cases, it can't all be blamed on the manager. Has to be an element of owning it from players as well. So I'd like to get more of a Pats fans perspective on it, because I've only seen a handful of games, and I'm only going off a handful of games from what I've seen. But then you're looking at results. But results and performances, and I know this from watching Ireland, have been two different things. And I thought there was games where under Kenny for Ireland, we played really well, but didn't get the wins or the results that we wanted. And maybe it's been the opposite under Hamer, where wouldn't have been playing as well and we got results. Anyway, that's besides the point. So I think there's an element of some of the players need to take ownership there as well. And someone needs to step up at Pats and be a leader, if I'm being honest with you. Because I don't see any leaders there when I look at that squad.
Yeah.
From watching them this season.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
they've got quality. If you look at their squad and compare it to anyone else bar Rovers, you would say on paper they've got nearly 2 players per position. No other club has that luxury. So they should be, they should be getting better results.
And that's the reason why they were one of the favourites for the league title at the start of the season.
Yeah. What do you think about it anyway? We didn't get your opinion.
Yeah, well, this is it. I was quite critical of Stephen Kenny in his time at Ireland, and I do kind of get shades of that right now. Obviously an absolute legend in the League of Ireland, and no one can take that away from him, from his time at Dundalk, going back to his time at Rovers and Bows and Derry. And now it's just kind of like how they finished last season. There was so much expectations in Richmond Park at the time. And it seems like it's kind of just deja vu every year for Pats fans. It's like they get built up before the season. Right, this is our year to go and challenge because we've got the squad. Can we just have the manager? They did have the manager this year, and for some reason, whatever reason, it just hasn't clicked. One thing I would point is it's a bit of a weird dynamic. How do you fit Aidan Keena, who's probably one of the better players in your team, and Mason Melia, who's probably one of the most talented players in Ireland at the moment? How do you fit them both in the same team? Obviously, if injury troubles with Chris Forrester has been in and out of the squad. The likes of Jake Mulroney struggled to find form this season. But ultimately, I agree with Paul's point. I think there does have to be an element of responsibility and ownership from the players, because they are experienced lads. I know Mason Melia is there, but it's not like it's a team full of teenagers. These are experienced players who've been around. So I think really disappointing from a Pats perspective. And our friend Andrew Lanigan isn't taking it well by the looks of it.
We must get him on soon.
Sends me a voice every time they lose.
Yeah, what does that say? Or is it too bad to?
He's a bad omen when he goes there.
Yeah, I've heard. But moving on to another team who aren't in the best form. Steve, I know you want to talk about Cork, because they are propping up the table at the moment, dead last. Really struggling to find points right now, and it doesn't help that they're losing a couple of players. De Janeiro Daniels seems to be leaving up front, and their goalkeeper Truce is gone as well. Links with Cathal O'Sullivan away. Cork right now, not a great place to be.
No, it's. I mean,
the fans are protesting as well.
Yeah, it's really bad, really bad. I know.
Sorry, Steve. Just one thing before. I know you're saying the fans are protesting. There's been kind of a call from the players and the manager to say, stick behind us here. We're in a really bad situation. The fans, on the other hand, are saying, you aren't playing for us. You aren't giving us something to cheer for. The owner doesn't seem to care. So those two things are coming together as well.
It's just a mess down in Turner's Cross, to be honest. It's just that's the best way to put it. I'm shocked. I expected Cork to be finishing 5th or 6th before the season started, with that partnership up top, Rory Keaton and Shawnee Maguire. Rory Keaton's out for the season. That's obviously a big reason of why they're not performing well. Shawnee Maguire isn't scoring goals. I know he's had a couple injuries this season. But yeah, it's rough down there. I do feel for Cork fans, because it does seem like they're going to go straight back down, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Paul, they brought in Jer Nash. Seems to be a little bit of an improvement. At times they're picking up points where maybe they shouldn't do, but then at other times they look really handy to play against. Obviously Pats, which we just touched on, proved that kind of wrong when they went down there, but play nice football, but really just seem to come out on the wrong side of a lot of results.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when you're playing at the bottom of the league, you shouldn't be so open. And I was talking to a Shamrock Rovers player a couple of weeks ago when they went up to play Shamrock Rovers, and they went up there and played a 4-2-4 against Rovers away.
Yeah,
I mean, naivety, and they were how many goals down were they in the first 20 minutes of that game? 3-0?
It was 3, yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? There was no real manager bounce. I was at his first game where he wasn't managing, but he was there in the crowd against Pats. Now, you were there that night as well. Jamie Lennon scored in the last minute.
Yeah.
And they looked good that game. They got back. They were winning 2-1 at one stage. They were 1-0 down, and they ended up losing 3-2. I think there's maybe a little bit of a lack of belief. Now, you spoke about Pats, their ownership, and having non-teenagers. I mean, you look at Shawnee Maguire and maybe Rory Keaton, who's injured for the season. They're the two senior lads there, but I think Shawnee's been doing his bit up front.
Behind the scenes, you've also got Greg Bolger in there. So
yeah, well, he's playing as well. So yeah, there's an element to that, but there's not too many. There's like 2 of them, and that's it. And it's an aging Greg Bolger as well. Don't forget, like, so he's not what he used to be. He was one of the best midfielders in the league in his prime, which was only 3-4 years ago, with Rovers and with Cork. So I think he's just gone down there to try and help them and get them back up, steady the ship, and then fade off into the background in the longer term. But I think they'll definitely all be very disappointed with the way the season's gone so far. And yeah, it's just they haven't got a new manager bounce at all.
Yeah.
The new manager. And
I know we're talking about Duff going, we're talking about these players leaving the league, how much of a loss to the league they are, but losing a club like Cork, such a hugely followed team down there, probably one of the biggest fan bases in the league outside of Dublin, definitely. That would be a huge loss to the league if they were to go down as well.
Yeah, massive loss. And look, if you haven't been to Turner's Cross, make a trip. It's a great stadium, great atmosphere, and the Cork fans turn up every game. So, look, I mean, on the plus side, we'll probably be getting Dundalk back.
Yeah.
So we're getting one big club back, but we're losing, it seems, another one. Now, look, it's not guaranteed Cork going to go down here at all. But
I think it's a testament, though, to like Drogheda and Sligo
as
well. So
yeah,
for what they've done to try and stay above the station and be comfortable. And the fact is, the league has gotten better.
Yeah.
And there's teams there that you're looking at going, fair play, Waterford as well, who
have had that manager bounce from John Coleman.
Exactly. They look like they're a good team. They can produce a lot of good players. So do Cork. But you just wonder, like, when Cork are selling these players, where's the reinvestment coming from?
Yeah. And finally, just to give Steve a chance, your Rovers, a couple of comings and goings there. Sean Robertson, who didn't really play at all. Did he play at all? Did he play any minute?
Came off the bench for one game for like 5 minutes. Yeah.
One game, but you have signed a new forward.
Yeah, we did indeed. But before we get on that, Cottle O'Sullivan is we forgot touching that.
Yeah.
He's linked to it. He was in from
Palace.
Preston,
and Brentford are in the race now. Palace.
I believe that's for the end of the season, though. It won't be now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, great. That's a shining light of Cork season. But yeah, John McGovern, I think he's the top goal scorer of Northern Irish League. As of the 1st of July.
Today?
He joins the squad, today. So, look, I haven't seen much of him. He's young, he's 22, I believe, and he's scoring goals up in Northern Ireland. So, it's another addition to the big squad.
Though, from a certain Mr. Bradley.
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah, you do.
Which?
You said, wait to see this player.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when I asked about him, I said, I haven't seen much of him. What's he like? He goes,
Is this an exclusive, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bradley said, great player.
What did he say? So lots to be expected from. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh wait, sorry. The jerseys behind me. Ian Travers, shout out to you, my friend. He was in wars in these jerseys, lads. My uncle Barry told me. So shout out to you for the retro.
There's a few
Rovers
holes in them there. What happened with the holes?
No, look, I heard
the
he was
dog
in.
get on it?
I heard he was in some situations in Linfield. So
Could be like Shell fans in a couple of weeks.
Sorry, my friend. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I wouldn't give them to a dog. But anyway, lots to be expected. In Rovers, it seems Tallaght Stadium get a new striker. So according to Steve and Stephen Bradley, a lot to be expected from him. So we'll be waiting with bated breath. But that's it for today. See you next time.